Hi there, Vibe Gardeners. In this episode of Vibe Gardening Informal Edition, we're going to go into our fourth edition of the Hydroponics 101 series. We're going to help you figure out how you can build your own DIY deep water culture hydroponic system here. And with a pretty budget build, you can get yourself started. With that said, let's go. Okay, so help us ground a little bit about what we're doing here. This is going to be the third system I've built already, and it's going to be just the system itself with the air pump combined with the container. It's going to run you approximately about a little bit under $15 from my guess, depending on the market. This is 2025, November 2025. And it's not going to include all the equipment that you will need to get your system started. But in the next episode of Hydroponics 101, in episode 5, I'll go into more on equipment of what you need, how to acquire those set equipment, and how to most economically get yourself what you need for what you need to build. So with that said, let's dive in deeper into what we actually have here and how I source them for this build at least. It's going to be limited down. All right, so these are the equipment we're going to need for today's build. So as we can see here, we're going to get ourselves a storage container. This, as you can see here, it's a 3.1 gallon system that I actually got from Ali's bargain outlet for about $6. I highly recommend you buy these in stores as opposed to online retailers because the bulk and size of these, though they're not heavy, they will take up a lot of space, and you'll be paying premium for the storage cost in like an Amazon warehouse or something like that. So I highly recommend buying these in stores and from a like I said, I went to Ali's bargain outlet. You can find other bargain outlets near you that might have it. But this is actually the perfect size in that most um, beginner pre-built systems will run you about only 1 gallon of water in there, which as we'll go into later on with other episodes, it's actually a pain in the butt because you'll be running yourself very low on the what's called water very quickly. So this is what you can probably fill this up to, I'm guessing about 2.5 gallons, and that's going to last you a little longer, so you can go on vacation and not have to worry about the system drying out. And it's made of pretty okay materials. If you open it up, you will see that we're dealing with a nice thickness here. This is actually a very durable item, and actually I've built a few systems out of this. So the screenshot I have on the top corner here, this is going to show you a little bit of what I was able to do with lettuce which could have last season. And it is quite a good base to build your system on. And then, of course, for drilling holes, we want to make sure that we go safety first by having safety glasses. And for drilling the holes, we will need these hole drill saws right here. And I have a hole saw set here. I was able to get from Ross. But if you can't get yourself one of these, I will link you an item below that you can get at a reasonable price. These are not exactly expensive. You also want to get yourself at least one segment of air hose. So this is essentially the equipment that's going to connect your air pump to an air stone like this. And it will fit. I mean, I'm not going to fit it right now because it's obviously going to be airtight. It'll be hard to fit. But so this is going to be your measurement as the air hose is going to go in the side through another hole. So you're going to need your regular drill bits for that, which I have not shown here. You also need to get yourself one of those grow sponge baskets so you know how big you'll be drilling for the holes on top. Of course, you want to get yourself a measuring tape to make sure you got the right measurement. And of course, your handy dandy drill. So this is going to help you drill that hole in there you want. I'll link all this item below. And on the optional side, one of the things that I find to be extremely useful in a build like this would be to use something like a digital caliber, something that my brother-in-law got me for me Christmas a couple years back, and this is actually quite good. I mean, you don't have to have this to be able to get this build done, but it is very useful to be able to see in a digital display here exactly how wide anything is before you actually drill the hole to reduce the error you're going to get to the lowest amount. So for this build, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to examine actually what the dimension we're dealing with. So let's look inside and see how this container is built up. So you put the lid down approximately, you have about this space to work with. So let's do a little quick measurement here. You see that it's about 11 inches across, and it is approximately about, well, 8.5 to 9 inches um, wide. So the thing that we want to do is most of the pre-built systems will give you only about 3 to 4 inches between each pod. And in my opinion, that is very tight. I've done that before, and it is a very big squeeze. I think a lot of times it's more of a commercial trick they do, try to make it sound like you can grow more than you probably should be growing in each system. What I really want to do here is I want to use this for experiment coming up, where I'm going to basically pit hydroponics to soil seed starting with 3 popular herbs and see how they really do in each environment to make sure that we can see where it goes. So what I really need is I want, if possible, I would love to have three holes for each herb. So we're going to talk about 9, in addition to another hole to be able to put your hydroponic measuring meter in there. And so with that, so like I said, we have about 11 inches across. And for a lot of plants, we want 6 inches. And I don't know if we're going to be able to get that. So minimum, we're going to be working with 4 inches. So if we start from So the next part of the process here is we're going to measure this basket. So we're going to turn on the caliper, zero it. And so right now I'm using millimeters because it is a lot more accurate than inches. There's a lot more numbers to work with. We're going to closing on it. It's about 33.7 millimeters. And that's our starting point. So then what we're going to do here is that we're going to remember that. And I'm going to zero this thing out. We're going to take our hole saw here. And we're going to find that it's going to be what we need here. Of course, everything is in inches as you would expect. And you're going to, something tells me this one being 30er might be the closer one. What we can do is we can, again, turn it back on. We want to measure the outside of it, because the outside is going to be what fits in there, right? So this thing right here is about 37, which is a little large, 37. Let's see how far 37 is. 37 is still within the tolerance of the actual basket here. It's going to be still be able to fit into it. And that's perfect because you want it to be able to fit in there, not be too hard. Though some of my other ones, you have to pop it in and pop it out. It's still fine, you know, but you want to make sure that it's going to be able to fit into this clearance here. Another thing I forgot to take into account is this cover cap. This is going to be important as if there's that empty hole, or in our case here, we have a hole here to drop our fluid and measurements into. We need to cover it with this. We got to make sure that this thing right here still fits, and there we go. This thing fits perfectly, and it's not going to drop through. So I think we have a winner here with this saw right here. All right, so now you can see I have loaded the drill with a hole saw of the right size. Of course, always remember, put on your safety goggles. Protect your eyes. If anything flies around. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drill this liquid injection in the measuring hole. All right, as you can see, we got a hole here, and let's test to make sure this thing works. You can see the cap goes on just perfectly, and this also drops in perfectly. So we have confirmed that we have got the right size here. And what now we're going to do is we're going to drill the rest of the holes. And there we have it, the grand reveal of the final product, though it's a little different than I said earlier. The key is I decided we can support 6 holes in here. And so we have 3 on this side, 3 on this side, and then we have this right here as our entry point to make sure that we can get our testing and all that stuff taken care of. The one thing that I understated the importance of is removing these cutouts every time you make a hole. It's going to get jammed up in that hole saw, and that's something that you do not want to have happen. So that's the final product on that. So yeah, there we go. So the next step of this process is actually a little easier in that you don't have to be as precise in your measurement. Is to make a hole for the air hose here, the segment of. And what we can do is we can actually just take one of these standard drill, and we can basically put the hose on top of it and see how it fits. And this actually says right here, this hose is actually a little bigger than this drill bit. As we can see here with this one, it's very tight, but just enough. And it's better tighter than looser with these things. And also you can always make the hole bigger if you need to. So I'd rather stay on the safe side and make sure we use a smaller hole to make it fit, as we want the hole to be watertight in case you overfill the tank. Right now the drill is loaded. You can take this side, and then what we can do here is I'm going to actually get in the corner here and make this the entry point for the air hose. I'm going to put it right up against the lid here. And there you have that hole. And let's see how it fits. You see the air hose closing perfectly. Now we can demonstrate. You can take this air stone and we can connect it on this end. You can put it right in the middle. And that is essentially how we can get the system to work. So yes, and there we have it. This is now the completed hydroponic system. And I'll link below the air pump that I generally like to use and the water pump that I'm going to use on it. But like I said, I'm going to save all the equipment stuff to the next episode of Hydroponics 101. All right, crew. So here we have it. We have a DIY hydroponic system. So we have essentially decided that we're going to take this back here with a hole here for the air hose to go through. So we can have air stone right in the middle, having the air getting pumped in from the outside. And then we're going to be essentially taking the water pump and having the electric cord come out the side and getting closed in by the lid here. And the lid, we've decided that we're going to essentially have a one entry point for being able to put in the liquid solution and being able to do the meter measuring. And we're going to be able to cover it with one of these lid covers that now fits perfectly over that hole. And then we have 6 holes now where we can conduct our experiments, which, as you can see, the pods fitting perfectly. And now we're ready to grow. So I hope that gave you guys a good start on how you can build your own container. You can probably build a much more elaborate one, but this is a basic one, as this is a Hydroponic 101 series, to make sure you have the basis to get started on your journey. So with that said, guys, let's go garden and vibe. Let's go.